They look harmless, cheerful even, bright yellow, perfectly curved and lined up neatly in supermarket displays. But bananas carry a secret of monocultures and genetic fragility, of lost varieties, collapsing empires, and a fruit that's quietly disappearing from under our noses. This is the story of how one of the world's most familiar foods became a global ticking time bomb. But before you get comfortable, make sure to like and subscribe if you find these stories interesting. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always so fascinating connecting with people from around the world. Now, get comfortable, dim the lights, close your eyes, and just listen. Let your mind drift. There's no need to remember anything. This story is here to keep you company as you rest. You peel it without thinking. Bright yellow skin, soft fruit inside, gentle sweetness. A snack, a smoothie base, a cartoon cliché. The banana is ordinary, familiar, too familiar. Because here's the truth. Every banana you've ever eaten is a clone. Genetically identical, mass-produced, sterile, vulnerable. And they are dying. Quietly, rapidly, irreversibly. This isn't a story about fruit. It's a story about how we tried to outsmart nature and lost. It's about the first banana empire that collapsed almost overnight. About a disease that turned one of the world's most beloved fruits into a ghost. And how we, the eaters, never noticed it was happening again. Our journey begins not in a grocery store, but in a jungle. Long before supermarkets and shipping containers, bananas were wild, chaotic, small, with thick seeds, strange shapes, and limited sweetness. They grew in Southeast Asia, tangled in dense foliage, and weren't easy to love. But humans are patient. We selected, we cultivated, we waited. Over generations, we turned them into something soft and seedless, an edible mutation, a rare accident of nature that we replicated again and again. Eventually, that led to a banana called the Gros Michel, the Big Mike. Thick-skinned, sweet, and durable, it became the gold standard banana of the early 20th century. If you lived in America or Europe in the 1920s, 30s, or 40s, this was the banana you knew. And it was delicious. It traveled well. It looked good on shelves. It didn't bruise easily. It was the banana. And companies staked entire empires on it. Enter United Fruit Company, a name you may not know, but one that once wielded the power of a government. They built railroads, influenced foreign leaders, and toppled governments to maintain their banana empire. Central America became dotted with plantations, monocultures of Gros Michel bananas stretching across thousands of acres. Workers were underpaid, lands were seized, local economies bent to the will of foreign profit. The banana was no longer a fruit. It was a commodity, a weapon, a kingdom. But empires built on sameness don't last, because nature doesn't care about human plans. And the fungus came. The fungus had no name at first. It started as patches in the soil, yellowing leaves, plants that drooped before their time. On the surface, it seemed like bad luck, a rough season, nothing more. But then the dying spread, plantation by plantation, acre by acre, until thousands of banana plants were collapsing, all in the same way. It wasn't a pest, not insects, not weather. It was something deeper, in the soil, in the roots. A disease that didn't just damage banana plants, it destroyed them from the inside out. Panama disease, a fungus that moved invisibly through the earth, entered the plant's vascular system and choked it from within. No cure, no containment, just destruction. And because the Gros Michel banana was a clone, every single plant genetically identical. Once the fungus figured out how to kill one, it could kill them all. The plantations were perfect hosts. Thousands of the same plant, side by side, unable to resist. Like dominoes, one fell, then the next, then the next. In less than 2 decades, the banana that had ruled the world was gone. Not extinct, but commercially unviable, too risky to grow, too fragile to ship. It was over. The banana empire had collapsed. But instead of asking why, instead of changing course, the banana companies made a different choice. They found a replacement, another banana, similar in taste, cheaper to grow, and, for now, resistant to the disease. Its name was the Cavendish, and if you've eaten a banana in the last 50 years, that's what you ate. But this fix came with a cost. The Cavendish was bland compared to the Gros Michel, less creamy, more watery. It bruised more easily. It ripened too fast. But it was disease resistant, and that's all the industry needed. They replaced every Gros Michel grove with Cavendish clones. Overnight, the world's banana supply shifted to a new fruit, one not chosen for taste, but for survival. And once again, we built a monoculture. One genetic line, one banana, millions and millions of copies. It worked for a while, until the disease came back. This time, it had evolved. The new strain, called Tropical Race 4, could infect Cavendish plants too. And once again, there was no cure, no treatment, no real defense. It started in Southeast Asia, and like before, it spread, slowly, quietly, beneath the soil, through the roots, until plantations in the Middle East, Africa, and now Latin America began to see the signs: yellowing, wilting, rot. The nightmare had returned. But this time, there's no backup banana waiting in the wings, no Gros Michel to fall back on, no miracle clone, just the Cavendish, fragile, ubiquitous, delicious, and dying. The global banana industry tried to act like everything was fine. Tropical Race 4, they said, was still contained. The major plantations in Central and South America hadn't been hit yet. There was time. There were plans. But beneath the surface, fear spread faster than fungus. The Cavendish banana is a global crop. It doesn't just feed people, it sustains economies. For countries like Ecuador, Colombia, Costa Rica, and the Philippines, bananas are a top export. Jobs, infrastructure, even political relationships depend on those crates moving overseas. And those crates all carry the same fruit, the same clone. Scientists began scrambling. Could we breed a resistant banana in time? Could we genetically modify one? Could we stop the spread? But it wasn't easy. Bananas don't reproduce through seeds. They're sterile. Every new plant is a cutting, a clone, grown from the exact same genes. You can't crossbreed sterile clones the same way you can with corn or wheat. Creating a new banana isn't like creating a new apple variety. It takes time we don't have. Tropical Race 4 had already jumped borders, from Asia to the Middle East, from the Middle East to Africa, from Africa to Latin America. The first confirmed case in Colombia appeared in 2019. Panic followed. Quarantines, biosecurity zones, burned crops. But the fungus isn't easy to contain. It doesn't float in the air or sit on leaves. It lives in the soil itself, invisible, persistent, capable of surviving for decades without a host. Once it's in your fields, it's there to stay. So countries responded with silence. Banana exporting nations feared that acknowledging the disease would scare off buyers. So they downplayed it, delayed reporting, focused on public reassurance rather than action. The industry did what industries often do when the truth is bad for business. It hid. But the soil doesn't lie, and little by little, the numbers began to shift. Losses in yield, rotting roots, empty shipments. The fungus was spreading, and once again, the entire world had bet everything on a single crop. One variety, one set of genes, one fragile hope. The Cavendish banana had become a ticking clock. To understand how we got here, you have to understand just how strange bananas are. In the wild, a banana is barely edible. It's filled with hard seeds the size of pebbles. The flesh is starchy, fibrous, and bland. You couldn't slice it onto cereal. You couldn't make banana bread. You'd barely recognize it as a fruit. The banana we know today is a genetic anomaly. Somewhere in the ancient forests of Southeast Asia, two species of wild bananas, Musa acuminata and Musa balbisiana, crossed in a rare natural hybridization. The result was a fruit that had no seeds, just soft pulp. A freak accident, a sterile miracle. But because it couldn't reproduce on its own, humans had to step in. We learned to cut and replant the stalks, to propagate clones by hand. Each banana plant you see today is part of that ancient lineage. Not a descendant in the traditional sense, but a duplicate. And so the banana became the most widely eaten fruit on Earth, despite being genetically frozen in time. It wasn't just convenience. Bananas filled a strange niche. They ripened off the tree. They shipped without refrigeration. They came with their own biodegradable wrapper. They were cheap, filling, sweet, and non-allergenic. Ideal for infants, athletes, the elderly, nearly everyone. Supermarkets loved them. Mums loved them. Global shipping companies built empires on them. By the 1960s, the Cavendish was everywhere. And yet, every time you bit into one, you were biting into a copy of a copy of a copy. Clones that stretched back decades, even centuries. And with every clone, the gene pool narrowed. No resistance, no variety, no built-in defenses, just uniformity. Nature thrives on diversity. It builds resilience through variation. A forest isn't made of one tree. A species doesn't survive by replicating a single line forever. But monocultures, single crops grown on vast scales, ignore that rule. They chase efficiency over stability, yield over longevity, and nowhere is that more dangerous than with a crop like bananas. We forgot the lesson of the Gros Michel, or maybe we remembered it and just didn't care. The profit margins were too good. The Cavendish was good enough. And so, again, we marched toward collapse. Not because we didn't know better, but because it was easier not to change. Behind the scenes, researchers have been racing against time. At institutions across the world, Australia, the Philippines, Uganda, scientists are trying to develop the next banana. Not through traditional breeding, which doesn't work on sterile plants, but through genetic engineering and careful mutation. In some labs, researchers are inserting genes from wild banana relatives that show resistance to tropical race 4. In others, they're experimenting with bacteria and fungi that might counteract the pathogen in soil. Field trials show some promise. A few genetically engineered bananas have withstood the disease in small-scale tests. But scaling that up is another matter. It's not just a biological challenge. It's political, cultural, and economic. The word GMO carries baggage. Many countries resist genetically modified crops, especially for consumer products. The image of the banana, natural, simple, healthy, would be tainted by controversy if the fruit was suddenly labeled as genetically engineered. And consumers, they're not prepared. The average person doesn't know their banana is a clone. They don't know the Cavendish replaced a superior variety already. They just want it to taste the same, feel the same, cost 29 cents each. But the threat is growing too large to ignore. TR4 is not hypothetical. It's not a regional issue. It's now present on multiple continents, across multiple climates, attacking the core of the global banana supply. Once it takes hold, it can't be removed. There's no fungicide, no rotation, no burning solution. The only defense is prevention, keeping the soil uncontaminated. And once that fails, the land becomes permanently unusable for Cavendish crops, for decades. So scientists continue their work in near silence, trying to delay a collapse, trying to buy time. But what happens when that time runs out? It's already running short. Bananas have always been political. In the early 20th century, entire nations were reshaped around banana exports. The term banana republic didn't come from satire. It came from reality. Countries like Honduras, Guatemala, and Nicaragua saw their governments bent, bribed, and sometimes overthrown by banana corporations seeking profit and control. The most infamous of these companies was United Fruit, an American corporation so powerful that it could influence US foreign policy. When the Guatemalan president tried to redistribute unused land owned by United Fruit to poor farmers, the company labeled him a communist threat. In 1954, with lobbying from United Fruit, the CIA orchestrated a coup. The president was ousted. A military regime took over. Thousands died, and all of it, quietly, chillingly, was about bananas. The fruit became a symbol of something larger: exploitation, profit, the illusion of abundance. Bananas were cheap because someone else paid the price. Workers toiled in brutal heat. Pesticides rained from crop dusters. Wages stagnated. Lands were stripped bare, replanted again and again until the soil broke down. And yet, the fruit kept coming, perfectly shaped, uniform, reliable. Today, the labor issues haven't gone away. In some regions, conditions have improved, with certifications like Fair Trade attempting to guarantee better wages and safer environments. But in others, exploitation persists. Many banana workers earn poverty wages, exposed to toxic chemicals with little protection. Because the Cavendish is so delicate and disease-prone, it demands intense intervention, frequent spraying, constant monitoring, heavy resource use. It's a fragile illusion of permanence, propped up by human effort. All to keep bananas cheap. So why don't we just switch bananas? That's the question most people ask when they first hear about the Cavendish crisis. If the clone is failing, if it's so fragile and doomed, why not just find another variety and grow that? The answer is complicated. There are other bananas, thousands of them, in fact. Across Southeast Asia and Africa, you'll find red bananas, blue bananas, stubby bananas, long thin ones that taste like vanilla, or apple, or lemon custard. Some are starchier and used in cooking, like plantains. Others are too seedy for export, but thrive in home gardens. But very few of them check the right boxes. To be a global banana, a variety must be seedless, sweet, durable in transit, uniform in ripening, resistant to disease, and able to grow on a massive scale. Most bananas that taste amazing don't survive shipping, or they bruise too easily, or they ripen too quickly, or they can't be cloned efficiently. It's not about what grows best, it's about what ships best. And the Cavendish, flawed as it is, has dominated because it works well enough. It can ripen in refrigerated containers, arrive looking yellow and firm, and sit on store shelves for days without turning to mush. For global markets, that's gold. Switching to a new banana would mean overhauling the supply chain, from packing facilities to shipping temperatures to store displays. It's not impossible, but it's expensive, and the industry isn't willing to gamble yet. So we wait, watching, hoping, buying time through containment, research, and silence. And in the meantime, the Cavendish soldiers on, a ghost of its former self, vulnerable, in decline, but still there. If the banana goes extinct, it won't vanish overnight. It will disappear slowly, unevenly. First, in smaller markets, where rising costs make it less profitable to sell. Then in regions where tropical race 4 takes hold and plantations are abandoned. Prices will rise, shelf space will shrink. The banana will go from an everyday fruit to an occasional luxury. People will notice, but gradually, a quiet absence, and for most, it won't be clear why. The supermarket might still stock bananas from unaffected regions for a while. But the days of bananas as a cheap, abundant staple will be gone. Then, something strange will happen. Memory will begin to distort the fruit. Just as older generations talk about the Gros Michel with a wistful tone, people may start remembering the Cavendish with a kind of nostalgia. Not because it was the best banana, but because it was their banana. The taste of childhood, of smoothies and school lunches, and plastic-wrapped convenience store muffins. A fruit that wasn't exotic or seasonal, but always there. Always dependable. Always yellow. In a world of shifting climates and fragile food systems, we'll start to recognize the banana not as a grocery store staple, but as a cautionary tale. Because it's not just about bananas. Monocultures threaten many of our foods. Coffee, chocolate, wine grapes, even apples. Crops grown in narrow genetic bands are always at risk. Disease, drought, pests, or shifting temperatures can wipe out entire harvests if the plants don't have diversity to adapt. Bananas are simply the most visible example. The fruit we all eat. The fruit with the most to lose. The fruit that's already halfway gone. The deeper you go into the banana's story, the more it feels like a mirror. Not just of agriculture, but of us. Our desire for sameness. Our preference for convenience over complexity. Our tendency to ignore long-term risk in favor of short-term gain. The Cavendish banana didn't become dominant because it was the best fruit. It became dominant because it fit the system. And once it was in place, everything around it bent to accommodate its needs. Plantations were built for it. Shipping lanes were timed for it. Shelf space was reserved for it. Marketing was shaped around it. It was efficient. It was predictable. It was just good enough. And so we settled. Even as scientists warned about genetic vulnerability. Even after the collapse of the Gros Michel. Even when tropical race 4 first appeared in the 1990s. We had a working model, and we stuck with it. This mindset extends far beyond fruit. It's how we build cities, design schools, operate industries, repeat what seems to work until it doesn't, then scramble when it breaks. The banana is a symbol of that cycle, the illusion of permanence. But nature isn't permanent. It adapts, it evolves. It finds cracks in our systems and presses through. And when it does, it doesn't care about nostalgia, or shipping logistics, or consumer habits. It just moves forward. There's one place where the future of bananas might be rewritten. Gene banks. Tucked away in vaults, greenhouses, and underground freezers around the world, scientists are preserving the wild relatives of the banana. Strange, seedy, bitter varieties with little commercial appeal, but enormous genetic potential. These plants, mostly found in Southeast Asia and Africa, hold traits that Cavendish lost long ago: natural disease resistance, hardier root systems, drought tolerance. But they aren't easy to work with. Many are difficult to grow or produce fruit that no consumer would ever want to eat. Some haven't even been fully studied. Still, they represent hope. Through crossbreeding, tissue culture, and genetic engineering, researchers are trying to blend the best of both worlds, taking the resilience of wild bananas and combining it with the edibility of commercial varieties. But this takes time. Years of lab work, field trials, regulatory reviews, consumer testing, and money. Research into banana genetics is woefully underfunded. It lacks the global attention of other crops like wheat or corn. Because bananas don't seem like a crisis food. They're so common, so cheerful, so unassuming. They don't look endangered, but they are. And the vaults aren't just about bananas. They represent a quiet revolution in how we think about food security, how we protect biodiversity, how we prepare for the failures of monoculture. The gene banks hold not just the past, but the possibility of a future where bananas are more than just fragile clones, where diversity is built in, not bred out, where the collapse of one variety doesn't mean the end of the crop. A future still possible if we act in time. Not all hope rests in science. Some of it lives in tradition, in farmers who never gave up on diversity, even when the market turned against them. In parts of India, Thailand, Uganda, and Indonesia, smallholder farmers have continued to grow dozens of local banana varieties, passing them down through generations. These aren't just crops, they're part of culture, used in rituals, fermented into drinks, woven into folk tales. Some are bitter, some too soft, some bright red or nearly blue. But they're alive, and they're different. These farmers often work outside industrial agriculture. They're not growing for export, but for sustenance, community, and resilience. Their fields aren't perfect rows of uniform plants. They're messy, irregular, full of mixed species. And that's exactly what protects them. Because diseases like tropical race 4 don't spread as easily in diversity. When one plant dies, another may survive. The system bends without breaking. In many ways, these farms resemble how humans once interacted with food, locally, seasonally, with variation and care. It's a slower model, less profitable, but more sustainable. Organizations are beginning to support these growers. Seed exchanges, training programs, cultural preservation grants. Some chefs and food writers are trying to raise awareness of banana biodiversity, celebrating varieties most people have never heard of. There's still a long way to go. The global market overwhelmingly favors the Cavendish, but these small growers may hold the key to a different banana future, one not built on uniformity, but on richness, on memory, on resistance. So what happens next? The truth is, no one really knows. Maybe the Cavendish will limp along for a few more decades. Maybe gene editing will produce a miracle replacement. Maybe tropical race 4 will sweep through Latin America faster than expected, and the banana shelves will suddenly empty. Maybe, just maybe, we'll shift the way we grow and consume bananas entirely toward a more diverse, regional, resilient future. But there's a lesson in the banana's slow motion downfall, one that goes beyond agriculture, beyond taste, even beyond economics. It's about what happens when we build systems on a single point of failure, when we prioritize scale over stability, profit over adaptability, familiarity over depth. The banana taught us that uniformity is fragile, that nature doesn't respect our shortcuts, that when we copy and paste the same solution again and again, eventually something breaks. And maybe the saddest part is this: we might not notice it vanishing until it's already gone. So tonight, if you happen to have a banana sitting on your kitchen counter, bright yellow, gently spotted, sweet smelling, pause for just a moment. That fruit traveled thousands of miles, came from a clone, stood on the edge of extinction without you even knowing it, and it might not be there forever. So go ahead, slice it, eat it, enjoy it. Just don't forget how strange, fragile, and utterly improbable it really is. Because the story of the banana isn't over, but it's changing, and it's a story worth remembering. There's one more thread we haven't followed: how the banana became the banana. Because it wasn't always so. In the 19th century, bananas were a novelty. In Europe and North America, they were rare, strange fruits seen only in illustrations or whispered about in travel journals. Most people had never tasted one. Those who had remembered it like a dream, soft, foreign, barely believable. That changed with refrigeration. As ships were outfitted with cooling systems and railroads expanded inland, a small fruit with a short shelf life became an international superstar. Bananas could now make the journey from the tropics to temperate cities, from plantations to ports to kitchen tables in a matter of days. Newspapers called them exotic. Nutritionists called them a miracle. Cheap, filling, easy to digest, perfect for children, invalids, and the working class. By the 1920s, bananas were being marketed with the enthusiasm of modern tech launches. Banana-themed recipes, banana mascots, banana promotions in department stores. They were no longer mysterious. They were American, or at least they seemed to be. The reality was very different. Behind each banana were workers in Central America, cutting bunches under heavy sun, living on wages that couldn't support a family. Behind each crate was a company controlling land, politics, and labor with ruthless efficiency. Behind each banana were workers in Central America, cutting bunches under heavy sun, living on wages that couldn't support a family. Behind each crate was a company controlling land, politics, and labor with ruthless efficiency. Behind the simplicity was a system of staggering complexity and control. And because bananas were perishable, the system had to work like clockwork. Delay a shipment, and the fruit rotted. A port strike, a hurricane, a border dispute, it could throw off weeks of income. Every banana, every bite, was part of a delicate ballet between nature and logistics. We don't think about that now. Bananas just appear. Even now, as the Cavendish teeters on the edge, the banana holds on to its image. Cheerful, easy, harmless. It's in cereal ads and lunchbox cartoons. It's pureed for babies and sold for pennies at gas stations. No other fruit carries such a weight of normalcy. No other fruit has worked so hard to disappear into the background of everyday life. And maybe that's why its story matters so much. Because when something so familiar carries a secret so fragile, it forces us to ask, what else are we not seeing? What other systems rest on quiet assumptions? What other comforts are borrowed from a future we haven't yet paid for? The banana is a quiet warning, a reminder that convenience has a cost, that sameness, for all its efficiency, is also a form of risk, and that sometimes the smallest things, sweet, soft, and yellow, can carry the biggest lessons. So the next time you walk past that neat row of bananas in the grocery store, pause. Think about the jungle it came from, the empires it built, The lives it touched, the clones it became, the disease waiting in the soil, the scientists in labs, the farmers with their red bananas and wild seeds, the future hanging by a vine. Because the banana is still here. But now, you know more about what it took to get here. And maybe, just maybe, that will help shape what comes next. Sleep well.